So core topic 2 is about information systems and databases. And you'd be aware that databases contain 4 main components: tables, forms, queries, and reports. There's 2 types of databases: flat file, which you really deal with in the preliminary course, and relational that you deal with in HSC course. Relational databases are usually defined with a schema, and they have things like entities and attributes and relationships and tuples that you'd be aware of. Data dictionaries are pretty important in this section. They provide a comprehensive description of the attributes on the fields in your databases, and I've chosen to highlight some stuff in data dictionaries in a moment. SQL is the query language that we use to create queries, and you may have done these in a practical setting in an Access database, for example. This is something that I find my guys struggle with sometimes, so we'll have a look at that as well. So let's take a look at a multiple choice question from 2002. This one is scenario driven as well. It's about a real estate agency, and they've got an extract of a database table here which shows you some properties which are available. So it's important that we take a look at this and we have a look at the data that's given. So you can see we've got some houses, we've got some flats, and they're in areas of Sydney like Bankstown and Hurstville. So we've taken the time to really have a good look at our data before we go off and have a look at the question. So the question says, what would be the output of the following SQL statement? The SQL statement is shown with keywords select, from, and where. There's no order by in this one. And then there's 4 options given. So once again, with multiple choice questions, it's good to rule out some options which may not be correct. And I think with this one, you can see that there's option A, which has got no data against it. I reckon we could rule that one out pretty much straight away. Option B, well, it's got address, rent, type, and branch. Let's have a look at that. Let's go back to the SQL statement. The SQL statement just says select the address and branch fields. So I think we could probably rule out option B as well. So in option C, you can see that the branches listed are Hurstville and Bankstown. The SQL statement clearly said in the where statement, branch has to equal Hurstville only. So I think we can rule out C, which leaves us with D. Let's just go and have a look at it. Address and branch fields are listed. Properties table, yeah, great. And branch listed is Hurstville. Fantastic. The answer is D. Let's move on to a short answer question from the databases topic from 2008. Once again, got a scenario here. This one's about pets and a pet electronic tracking system. They've put microchips in pets, and they've got a database of these pets. Once again, they've given us an extract of the database, but this one is a data dictionary. So the data dictionary shows us what the database table should look like. Field name, data type, and data size are all described. And then the question says, justify the choice of data type for each of the owner telephone number and paid fields. So let's just stop there. Let's just take a look at the data dictionary and get our head around it. Field names are listed, data types are listed, data size is listed. Okay, owner telephone number, let's zone in on that one. Owner telephone number with some underscores is the field name. Text is the data type, data size 10. Paid field, data type Boolean, and data size 1. Okay, I've got my head around that, let's move on. So, an answer to this one. The owner telephone number has been set as text because it allows numbers with a leading 0, like a mobile phone number, for example, an 0421, for that leading 0 to stay there. If we were to set it as number and put a mobile phone number in there, then that leading 0 would be deleted. Text data allows that data entry to occur. And since no calculations are going to be done on that telephone number, then text is appropriate. So for the second part of the question, the paid field, we set that as Boolean because we want to make a yes or no statement against that. If we were to set it to something like text, then a user could enter yes or Y or T for true. But when you use it with Boolean, it's just yes or no. We're only using one character for that, so it's appropriate. Once again, I've had a look at the marking criteria for you for this. And for the better answers, we've got to provide the clear justification for each of the data types with reference to the characteristics of each. The better responses justified the choice as well as providing characteristics. Let's move on to core topic 3. So in core topic 3, we deal with communication systems. And we talk about things like network hardware, hubs, switches, routers, modems, gateways, network interface cards. I use an analogy with my guys that seems to ring true. It's called the postal analogy. So if we think about data packets as being like postcards, a postcard has a finite amount of data on it, and it usually has an address that it's going to, and you usually sign it off sometimes with an address that it came from. A computer or a device, they're like houses. Stick with me on this. A router, it's a bit like a post office. All the postcards come into the post office, and the post office decides where you're going to send each thing to. A switch, that's a bit like a postman. He gets given the postcards, and it's his job to deliver them. He has some knowledge of where they're going, but not as much as the post office. And a hub, it's a bit like junk mail. You chuck out data to everybody, whether they like it or not. Have a think about the postal analogy, and hopefully it'll work for you. Let's have a look at a multiple choice question from 2012. This one's about network topologies. So you can see we've got 4 network topologies shown here in this question. And we have to correctly identify the type of network topologies shown in each one. A little bit tricky here. Immediately you would look at option number 1 and think, well, that's a star network. Technically, it's not. Number 2, yeah, that looks like a star. Number 3, you might look at and say, well, that's a ring network. I don't think it is. Number 4, that to me looks like a hybrid. Let's go and have a look at the options. Number 1, that's actually a ring, as we suggested. Number 2, that's a star. Number 3, that looks like a ring, is actually a bus because it's got terminators at each of the ends that you can see. Even though it's in a ring shape, it's actually a bus network. And number 4 is a hybrid. So the answer to that one is B. Let's move on to a short answer question on communication systems. This one, once again, it's got a scenario, and a school is considering a new network solution. And they've given us a bit of a diagram here. You can see that there's 60 client computers in 4 classrooms. There's going to be 40 PCs that are centrally located. There's going to be a server for data and a server for the network. So it gives us a little bit more detail. It says that the users log in to a client. The login is validated by the server. They're assigned a PC from the bank of centrally located PCs, and user data is stored on one of those servers. Users log on to the network and log off, and the solution assigns a PC to users rather than every user having a dedicated PC. So immediately we start to think this could be a bit of a thin client question. Explain the processing that occurs and indicate where it occurs when a user logs on and accesses an application package. That's the question. You can see it's worth 3 marks. So the network that the school's considering using is a client-server network architecture. There's 40 centrally located PCs. They're the clients, and they're controlled by the network server. The data server provides access to the data files. And then thin client terminals in the classrooms, they simply provide a connection to the centrally located PCs. They don't actually carry out any processing of data. When a user logs on at the terminal, an IP address is assigned to the PC and the user's credentials are authenticated. When a user logs off at the terminal, the session's going to be closed. When you access application software here, say for example a word processing package, the processing is actually being carried out on the centrally located server. So you can see what I've done with this answer here. I've broken it down into a number of dot points, and I've made sure that I've explained the processing that occurs when a user logs in and also when they access an application package. Really important to make sure we complete each part of the question. Marking criteria. The better responses clearly indicated the relationship between clients and servers in terms of processing when the user logs on and also application packages. And it made an interesting point here that candidates are not advised to restate the question. Just don't rewrite the question. You're not going to get any marks for that.